Nice of you all to take a break of watching a bunch of people unbox the iPhone 12 a few days early. No, I don't get those, but I'm here to talk about the HomePod, particularly why I wear HomePod merchandise, and I've never seen anyone else on Earth do that. It makes me feel like Iron Man. Thanks for watching. But I mainly want to discuss the HomePod Mini and how it's kind of backwards to how Apple probably should have rolled out their own smart speaker. Let's begin. So obviously, the first HomePod was unveiled way back in 2017, and for one, the name was unexpected because for the longest time we kept calling it Siri Smart Speaker, and HomePod was just... did not sound right. I was pretty floored by it back when they initially unveiled it, and its starting price of $349 and limited connectivity basically made it a niche product for the diehard Apple Music subscriber, and since then it's actually picked up a little bit more attention, especially when Apple discounted the price of it and likely was selling huge wholesale discounts to companies as they were able to start charging $200 for it, and then it got its own little following. Again, not super huge, but there were enough people out there that were saying, yeah, $200, it sounds pretty great. Siri's not the best out there, but for what you need a smart speaker to do, I think there's a growing number of people that realize I don't need to constantly ask theoretical physics questions to my speaker, but oftentimes I'm just asking it to play music or turn off the lights or set a timer. And for the basic stuff, I really truly do believe Siri has it covered, as someone who's been a HomePod user ever since launch day of it in early 2018, but I can finally admit now, seeing the HomePod Mini start at $99 and pre-orders will start next month, this should just be the HomePod. I'm really confused as to why this is the Mini, but that $300 gargantuan tank of a speaker is just the normal HomePod. I would say that one should have been called HomePod Max, and Apple probably should have started with the HomePod Mini way back in 2018. Mainly because of all the smart speaker reviews I've done. Okay, I did the Google Home Mini, then the Nest Mini, then the Google Home Max. I even tried out the Echo Dot for a while, and of course the HomePod. A lot of these things I basically use in my day-to-day life, whether I'm working or not, and I can attest that, a lot of smart speakers and a lot of digital assistants still kind of suck. Google or Siri will still make mistakes, they'll still have issues that I feel like we shouldn't have in 2020, and at the end of the day we kind of use them all very similarly. So, in my opinion, Siri does not make or break a smart speaker as much as its connectivity issues, which the HomePod and HomePod Mini may still have, not supporting Bluetooth or as many third-party streaming services as we may have liked. Apple's just gonna keep on pretending Spotify just doesn't exist. What's that? I have never heard of Spotify. Even though that's what we're all thinking, and maybe backstage they're working out some kind of deal, but in the meantime, HomePod is limited in that regard. But after using them in my daily life for a long time, I truly feel like the smaller smart speaker, the basic one that can, be mounted on your wall or be sub $100, HomePod Mini just barely qualifying there, or the smart speaker that can be included when you buy certain things or you subscribe to certain packages, they just hand you out a smart speaker. This is truly where I think most people find the value of a dedicated device like that, and time again, I think we've seen an increasing lack of people that are interested in spending big money on a very loud, very powerful smart speaker, because if they want some type of audio that's really loud and really powerful, they're probably a bit more interested in dedicated sound systems. And while the HomePod does sound really amazing, I will admit that you probably hardly ever play it over 70% volume, and especially us, we rarely play it over 50% volume, so making that your sole smart speaker for its first 2.5 years of being on the market, in my opinion, is a waste of time. Imagine if Google did not launch the Google Home, or they did not launch the Google Home Mini, and instead just started with the Google Home Max and then did nothing with it for 3 years. That's kind of the equivalent of what Apple did with the HomePod, which I think is a little bit backwards because, again, with the market of smart speakers we've seen, people are interested in picking up a little puck, some kind of little device that's capable of playing a bit of music. No, it doesn't have to rock the house. No, it doesn't have to be the best sounding speaker of all time, but just something that you're capable of talking to and having voice commands and playing music when you want it, setting a basic timer when you need it. That is not a $300 value to most consumers. I mean, to some of you maybe, but the majority majority of the smart speaker market is those tiny little pucks, those $50 or free handed out smart speakers that are given away alongside donuts. Yes, that was a real thing. Google did that. And I think HomePod Mini should just be rebranded as the HomePod. I think this should be the standard because genuinely, not trying to hate on the HomePod here, I think that's going to sell pretty well. I mean, I can honestly not think of that many dedicated devices Apple sells that are in that $99 price market. And a lot of people go to the Apple Store or shop through Apple's website because they're looking for a stocking stuffer or a great birthday gift that's not too crazy, you know, because not everyone can buy their kid or buy their friend a new iPhone every year because that's kind of expensive. And especially with the iPhone 12, it's getting more expensive by the day. But the HomePod Mini at $100 is cheaper than AirPods and still a device that probably sounds decent. Of course, I haven't heard it yet. I don't think anyone's heard it yet, but I'm sure the sound quality is probably better than what most people are expecting and definitely better than a Home Mini or an Echo Dot. And because it's another anchor point in the Apple ecosystem that does so well these days, I can see a lot of people giving that as a present or picking that up for Christmas because it's, you know, relatively speaking affordable. You know, it's not Google Home Mini affordable, but in the grand scheme of picking up an Apple product, it's pretty dang cheap and probably pretty impressive that you can talk to it and the sound quality will likely impress people. And no, it won't get as loud as the standard HomePods that we've had for the past few years, but at a third the price, I could easily see parents or other people picking up 1 to 2 of these things for their kids or for their relatives. And AirPods were a tremendous success at that $160 price point, and of course they went great alongside people's already existing iPhones. And I think the HomePod could be just as well another great tag-along accessory at a very affordable price point, which is why calling the most common one, the one that pretty much everyone is probably going to end up buying, the Mini, in my opinion, just feels unnecessary and redundant. This is going to be the standard. This is the one I think a lot of people are going to end up buying, and I would say they should call the big one HomePod Pro or HomePod Max. At least that's how I would handle branding, instead of calling the default the Mini. So, you know, I'm no expert in marketing. Apple probably knows a lot more about this than I do. Maybe calling HomePod Mini, you know, what they ended up calling it, infers that there is a larger, more powerful one, and perhaps that kind of does its own subconscious marketing to people that, hey, you know what, you like this Mini, guess what, there's a louder one you can pick up that's 3 years old and has still not been updated. I'm not sure, maybe that helps them out, but I like the design of it, and I think the price point was a lot better than what I was expecting, and for that reason, I think Apple might have a decent leg in the smart speaker game. No, not for being the cheapest smart speaker, but cheap enough to get a lot of people to buy it and a lot of people to upgrade, to the point that now I feel like people who are on Apple Music and buying a HomePod Mini might feel more inclined to stay with Apple Music because they know if they try to switch to a different streaming service, they're not going to be able to use their cool little smart speaker that they picked up and sounds really good. That's somewhat how I defended the last HomePod, as I was saying, you know what, it's weird, it's gimmicky how limited they made it, but for Apple Music subscribers, it's a decent accessory to have. Be it expensive, but for Apple Music subscribers, it's kind of nice. However, now with the HomePod Mini probably selling really well, that's going to be another big staple to keep people paying for Apple Music, and Apple's all about the services these days, right? So I can see why they priced it the way they did, and I'm curious if you guys are picking one up. How many of you are pre-ordering the HomePod Mini next month? Feel free to let me know, and feel free what you would have called the HomePod if you were in control, and would you even keep this HomePod around? I mean, I don't think it's that crazy to say just discontinue the old version because it's not priced that well anyway, and I'm predicting the sound quality of the HomePod Mini to be a bit better than people were expecting. Anyway, this is your Apple Sheep here. I'll see you guys in the next one.